Hey, what's up, Jacek from Filmmakers VFX Guide. I know there are many new people on the channel, so everyone welcome, it's awesome to have you here. In this lesson, I'll show you how you can easily add value to your either product video or real estate video. It's a really simple trick, but super effective and looks great. So let's jump in, and we will use that shot. So first, a small disclaimer. Anytime you use a 3D camera tracker in After Effects is basically a hit or miss, especially if you want to keep your geometry in a specific way. It really depends on the shot and if After Effects will be able to guess the camera position properly, because it maybe not so much has a problem with sticking the track, but rather guessing the perspective correctly. So I personally noticed that orbiting shots are pretty reliable for that, while pushing in shots, like for example a drone flying forward, has quite a few issues with perspective, but it really depends on the specific shot. Anyway, so we have our shot. Let's add the 3D camera tracker. Right away, I'm going to hit detailed analysis. After it's done, we have our millions of points. So our task is to find something that's on the ground right now, because that will be the most reliable way to place something in a 3D space. So let's select a few points on the ground. It looks like it's sitting well on this ground. Right click and select Create Solid and a camera. So now let's see if it tracked well. It looks pretty good. So let's scale it down just a little bit. So now we know that this whole plane is sitting on the ground. So what we want to do is put it up 90 degrees upwards, but we have to make sure that the edge touches the ground. So how do we do that? Well, we just have to move the anchor point. So select the pan behind tool or anchor point tool, click, and this time I don't want you to click on any of these arrows, but rather on the point itself. And the reason is, if you hit Ctrl, you can snap to the edge. If you held one of the arrows, the snapping is gone. So let's grab the anchor point, hold Ctrl and snap it to the bottom edge. Now let's move it towards the house just a little bit, click rotate, and rotate it on the x-axis. If you hold shift, we'll be moving in 45 degrees increments. Let's see if the 90 looks right. It looks like it's standing on the ground. So let's reposition this a little bit. Now let's scale it up, rotate it so it looks like it's standing in front of the house. Okay, that looks nice. So now we have a few options. I'll show you the clean real estate version first. So let's add a fill effect, and for now let's make it white. Now we have a few options. We could make a gradient, but I think in this case the best option would be to create a mask. So let's click on ellipse tool and double click it. This way it created an ellipse that perfectly fits our solid. Let's change it to subtract and increase feather a lot. We can change the blend mode to screen. It won't make much difference if it's just a pure white, but after we change color or manipulate it anyway, it will look better. We can change the color a little bit so it will be more transparent because of the screen mode, and let's make it grayish. Yeah, that works. Cool, so we now have our front wall. So now let's again use the pan behind tool, hold it, hold Ctrl and snap it to the right edge. Let's rename this layer front, duplicate it, hit rotate tool, hold shift and rotate it 90 degrees. Cool, let's name it. Right, select the front again, select the pan behind tool, hit Ctrl, snap to the edge, duplicate, rotate, hold shift. Cool, let's name it. Left, grab the anchor point with the pan behind tool, snap it to the top, duplicate it and rotate it 90 degrees, but on the x-axis. Now we can scale it up. Let's try to make it as precise as possible. That's good. Let's go to the last frame, grab the right one, grab the anchor point, snap it to the rear, duplicate it and rotate it 90 degrees. And now we have a cube. Let's rename it back. Okay, so we now have some funky stuff going on with the roof crossing over our wall while it should be behind it. So again, there are a lot of ways you can do that. You can use Mocha, but in this case I will just use the good old roto brush. So let's duplicate our layer. Let's solo it for now. Click on roto brush, double click on the layer, and let's paint in the house. Let's see what we have here. That's good. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Drag the propagation region to the whole composition. Let's reduce chatter just a little bit. I know there will be some because I already tried this scene. So let's just now hit play, and if there's any need, just adjust the roto brush tool. By the way, with the new roto brush 2.0 coming, this should be a little easier, but as you can see, it's tracking it pretty well. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's freeze it and wait again. Okay, so now we have the house basically on a separate layer. Not really, but that's enough. Let's rename it, by the way, top. Okay, good. So basically, as we can see, two layers should be blocked by the roof, and that's left and the back. And in the beginning, the right side. Let's do that as well. So all we have to do is get the back on the bottom, left on the bottom, and right in between them put our roof, and voila, there you have it. So here this looks good, but right now you can see that it's messing up this wall. So all we have to do when it's perpendicular, let's say right here, let's split this layer, Command Shift D, and put it above our roto. So now it will jump in front of our layer. So that's what we have so far. And we of course want to animate it on. So let's select everything we have and pre-compose it. You can see everything shifted, but that's because we didn't copy the camera along with it. But we can click the collapse transformations and everything is back to normal. So let's name it our box. Let's jump in. We can duplicate these walls, put it on the bottom for now. Let's pre-compose again everything we have here, and let's pre-compose the bottom and call it matte. Put the matte on top, go inside the matte, and let's remove masks everywhere. We want to have solid color all the way through. Cool, so that's now our matte. Let's again collapse both transformations, and for the box, let's select alpha inverted matte as our matte. So now we cannot see anything. Let's scale it up just a tiny bit. We can see some white sliver. That means we have just a little bit of separation right here, but we can fix it by moving the top just a little bit towards this side and scale it up again, and voila, there's nothing here. So let's select the position, Shift hold and press S and scale. Go few frames forward. Let's increase the Y position, and from here, maybe a frame earlier, set that initial keyframe to that point, and a few frames after, set it to 0. So this now should animate our box onto the screen. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's add roughen edges, maybe spiky, increase the border quite a lot, edge sharpness, maybe let's stick with roughen. So it will add some texture to our animation. That's good. And let's use easy ease out here as well. Easy is in here. Let's tweak graphs just a little bit. So let's see how our animation looks. Cool, and we can even drop the opacity if you think it's too much, but I think it's a nice accent if you want to show off the property. If it's a real estate video, I wouldn't add anything else, to be honest. We want a nice clean animation without any bells and whistles. So if you wanted to make, for example, product shot, just like this one, The steps would be basically identical. All you'd have to do is to create that box, and we already created the rotoscoped version. They are all in screen mode as well. So all you have to do is select the front. Obviously we have no effects, no masks. These are all fresh solids. All we did is set this to screen. Let's add fractal noise. Select maybe dynamic, block, turn down the complexity, transform, scale it up just a little bit. Alt click on evolution, type in time times 250, click away. So now you can see it's animated noise. We can even increase this to 500. Again, it's all up to you and to your shot. And we can add a plugin called VC Color Vibrance. It's a free plugin that colorizes black and white images, and it just looks great. So I highly recommend it. Again, it's for free. Google it and you will find it. VC Color Vibrance. If it was, for example, a techie product, we'd select, let's say, red. That look doesn't necessarily work in real estate video, but I'm only showing you the principle. So now you can select these both, edit, copy with property links, and we can paste it to all of these layers. And that way, anything we change on the front layer will be affecting all of the rest, because they have all linked properties to the front one. We can turn down the opacity a little bit. Of course, you can add glows and whatever it is that you feel like adding, but that's basically how I did these techie effects. For some of these, you can add a fun swipe, and I'll show you really quickly how to do it. Add an exposure effect, bring the exposure way up, create a mask, bring it down, reveal the mask, keyframe path, make it really small, create that keyframe here, go, I don't know, 3 frames, double click on the mask, move it up, and now all you have to do is go to Effects, Exposure, go to Compositing Options of that exposure effect, click plus, and select the mask. In that way, check this out. Boom, we can lengthen it, but you can see that exposure effect being affected only where this mask is. And if you forgot or didn't know, this is how we mask effects in After Effects. So yeah, I think that would be it. Okay, so that's it. If you want to learn more, I have a whole course for filmmakers called Filmmakers VFX Guide, and you can check out a free lesson, should be down in the description below. But meanwhile, hit me up with any questions you may have, and I'll see you in the next one.